Almost 70% of all shopping carts get abandoned. That means that only 3 out of 10 people that fill their shopping cart actually make it to checkout. If you're running an e-commerce store, you must have an abandoned cart flow to capture those sales and not let them disappear forever. In this video, I will be doing an in-depth tutorial on how to set up an abandoned cart flow in Klaviyo. By the end of this video, you will feel confident enough to set up your own Klaviyo flow and to make sure that you're capturing the maximum amount of abandoned carts and making money while you're focusing on other things. So before we get started with actually setting up the flow, I want you to check that your integration to your website is working as it should. So you just click on your name down in the left-hand corner, click on integrations, and here you can see that your integration should be set up correctly. So in this case, I'm using Shopify, but you can also use other platforms, other websites, and it works perfectly with this flow. So don't worry about that. So if you see that everything is working well, you will click on flows. You will create a new flow. So you will click on create flow. And here you can either choose to create from scratch, or you can choose one that already comes with Klaviyo. I am going to choose one that they already have. I'm going to search for abandoned. And I will choose the standard one. So this is standard email and SMS. In this tutorial, we're only going to go through the email one, and I'll make another one for SMS, another video, a separate video for that. But here we're going to choose this one, and we'll just delete the SMS. So what you can see here is we have clicked on the abandoned cart reminder flow. And if you look down here, you can see that the trigger is checkout started. So this is actually an abandoned checkout flow and not an abandoned cart flow. An abandoned cart flow is a little bit different and uses a different trigger. However, when people speak about abandoned cart, I would say that in 99% of the cases, they actually mean this flow. So we will just go ahead with this one, but I will just change the name to make it clear for myself. I will just change the name to abandoned checkout. For this example, I am using a Shopify integration and a Shopify that we are not using. We don't have a client that's using this Shopify. It's an old Shopify. So here you can see that there's a little warning that says that Klaviyo has not received any recent events from checkout started. In your own shop, you should see that this shouldn't happen. So if your integration is working as it should, everything should work fine. Then you click on create flow. How this flow is triggered is when a customer or when a visitor on your website they add something to their cart, and then they go to checkout, they start filling in their information, such as their email address, their name, their address, all of these things. That will trigger the event to Klaviyo. If they don't complete the purchase, this flow will then be sent out to them a few hours later. By the customer doing this in the checkout, you will capture the customer's name and you will capture their email address. So that's how you can send out these flows. Because we have captured the name of the visitor, we can also personalize and customize this flow to that customer. So it will feel much more personal to that. By personalizing emails, it will convert better. Now we're ready to get started with the settings for the actual flow. So what you want to do first is to click on the trigger at the top of the flow. And here you can set trigger filters and profile filters. So these are a little bit different. So let's start with the profile filters. You only want to send this flow to certain people. You don't want to send it to everybody. You want to send it only to the people who have not completed their purchase. So here is a filter. Klaviyo automatically adds these filters for you when you choose this flow, but you can also add your own filters or other filters you prefer. So who we want to send this out to is what someone has or has not done, placed order 0 times since starting this flow. So that means that they have not purchased, they have entered into this flow and they have not purchased. Let's say that a customer would purchase from, maybe you have 5 emails in this flow, and the customer decides to buy from email number 3. Then this customer will no longer receive email number 4 or email number 5. But if the customer doesn't buy at all, it will go through the whole flow and it will receive all the emails 1 to 5. I will also keep this other filter that Klaviyo already added, which has not been in this flow in the last 7 days. I will actually increase this to 14 days because we don't want to, this depends a little bit on the brand that you're sending out emails for. But in this case, I just want to keep it to 14 days because I don't want them to enter, maybe let's say that they get into this flow, they add something to the cart and they don't complete the checkout one day, then they start receiving this flow. And then they decide to add the product again to the cart in a few days. And then they will receive this flow again. I don't want that to happen because I don't want to spam them. So I would put at least 2 weeks here. This is up to you. You can decide if you want to do more or less here, or if you don't want to have this filter at all. Another condition that could be interesting for some brands is to exclude the people that have returned an item. So I would say that this filter can be useful. If there's a brand that sells only one product, one type of product, one product category, then it can be interesting to exclude those people because maybe that means that the customer might not be interested in the product that you're selling. It wasn't for them. However, if it's, let's say, a fashion brand that sells a lot of different clothes, then the return rate is usually very high and the return rate is also high. So maybe that customer ordered a t-shirt, it didn't fit, they didn't like the style of that t-shirt on themselves, but next time they will come back and they will order a dress. So I wouldn't exclude those for those type of brands, but for certain brands, it can be interesting. So to do that, you will click on add. You will select a condition, which in this case will be what someone has or has not done. Choose the metric, which will be refunded order. So that means if they have returned, you have probably paid them back, and that means that it has been a refunded order. At least once in the last, here you can choose, I would put maybe 45 days, and that's it. Now this condition is added as well, so you have 3 filter flows. For this example, I don't want to use this one, so I will take that away. But you can also add other filters, and I think it's good that you go in, you check what you need for your brand, and play around a little bit. Once you're done with that, you're happy with your filter conditions, you will click on Save. Now you can also choose trigger filters, and you can set up those. Trigger filters, they work in exactly the same way, but they offer properties that are directly related to the trigger metric. So for example, let's say that you want to filter people based on the properties of their cart, such as the cart value, products in the cart, and so on, then you can use trigger filters. You would do it in the same way. You would click on Add here, Add Trigger Filter, and here you would choose whatever you want. So dimension, maybe that can be value. If you want to filter by the value of the cart, maybe is at least $50. And then you would click Save. Once again, before we close this down, make sure that the actual trigger is what it should be. So here it's checkout started. That's correct. So guys, now that we have the triggers, the conditions, all the settings figured out and set up, let's get started with actual creating the emails. So what you want to do first is to check the timing here. Automatically, by default, it's set to 4 hours. I think that's a little bit long. Usually I do 1 to 2 hours. In this case, I will set it to 2 hours. Hit save. And then we can get started on creating the first email. So I will just delete the conditional split because here it should just be email. Delete, and then you want to select the yes path because it is can receive email. Yes, we want to delete that one. So we just want to keep the email path, which was the no path. So here you can see that we have the email 1, email 2, and so on. So this path is just one path right now. Then we can add our own splits if we want to do that. Let's get started with designing and creating the email. You want to click on that one. You will click on the 3 dots and click edit. Here you will choose the subject line and the preview text. We will do that afterwards. I like to start with the email and then go back to the subject and preview text afterwards. So let's just get started with the email first, and then we will come back to this later on. This is how the default email looks when you open it. I want to start with adding a logo at the top so they know who is the sender. You just add an image, then you will browse for your logo. Now I think that this one is a little bit big. I want it smaller, so you can just put the size here. I will just uncheck that one and uncheck that one as well. So you can see that it's a little bit smaller and it looks a bit more proportional to the rest of the text. So that's what I'm going to start with. Then I'm going to go right ahead and do a strong headline. I don't recommend having a header image or an image between the text and the logo, because what actually converts the best is this product block right here. And you also want to show the CTA and the strong headline as high up as possible in the email. So what I will do in this example is, did you forget something? You can decide to have something like that, or you could do something that's a bit more fun. Let's say that you're selling socks, and you could say something like, don't let your feet get cold, don't get cold feet, or don't leave us hanging, or don't leave this hanging, or something like that. You could also do what they had before, thanks for stopping by. I don't think that one is so strong. This usually works. So did you forget something? Then you might add an emoji. I want to add an emoji because this brand, we usually use emojis. Feel free to customize this text here. I think that this text is all right. I will keep it as it is. And then I will scroll down and I will change the CTA button. So instead of return to your cart, I would do something else. Maybe finalize your purchase, shop now, go back to your cart, something like that. Not go back to your cart, not return to your cart. I would do maybe finalize your purchase. Then I also want to change the color of the button that matches something that matches the brand. So in this case, it's going to be a purple button. We will use white font text. Done. So here we go. You can also check that the URL is correct. It's automatically set up by Klaviyo, so that's really nice. You should always double check it on mobile as well, but I do feel like when I see this, it's a little bit, I feel like this one has too much space. I want to keep everything kind of as much on the top as possible. So I want to decrease the padding a little bit here. So what we can see is top and bottom is 36. I'll maybe put that to 10 and 10 in the bottom as well. Even more, maybe there I'll just put 0. Just to make it kind of as small space as possible. You do want some space because you want it to be breathable. You don't want it to be too compact. Yeah, I just don't want it too big either. So here maybe I'll do 25. And then I want to take this one because if you can see when I preview this text. All right, so now this is a Japanese customer. So this is actually a checkout started that was done in 1 year ago. So that was 2023. This is a Japanese customer. So that's why you're seeing this in Japanese. But what you can see here is that this one ends up, there's the picture, and then you have the text up here. I kind of want it to be in the center. So I will just change that. I will click on this one. So what I will do here is that I will click on table settings. I will scroll down until I get to cell styles, and I will click on this one. So it ends up, you see that the text here moved down. So now it's in the center. Now let's preview again. You should always preview in both desktop and mobile. Keep in mind that most shoppers are going to watch your emails in mobile format. So it's very important that it looks good on mobile as well. So what I can see here is that I'm pretty happy with it. I don't really like the title here. I feel like there's too much space here. And also it just doesn't look that great. So I want to change that. And then I also feel like the logo is maybe a little bit big, and I also want something that spices up the email a little bit. So even though I told you that I don't recommend to have a header image, I do recommend to have something under the CTA button. So you want to keep all of this text and the CTA button and the product block as high up as possible, but you can always have a nice image down below. So that will give kind of life to your email and showcase your product in a great way.
Logo a little bit smaller. Maybe I want to do it, if it's 200 here, maybe I'll do 150. Just make it a little bit smaller. And then I think I will just take actually a new product block, and I will just start from scratch rather than using what Klaviyo had as a default text style. So here I will put 25, I will make it bold, and then I will just delete that. So let's see how that looks.
I think that looks much better. So it doesn't look so, strange. The logo is a little bit smaller. I feel like the text doesn't have so much space in between the lines. So to me, it looks much better. Now let's add an image to the bottom here. I want to choose this photo of some happy girls. So this brand is selling underwear. And here is a very nice photo from kind of behind the scenes. You can see that it is actually a sort of studio photo shoot, but you can see it has these elements. So this is kind of a behind the scenes photo. They look very happy. You can see how the underwear looks on different types of models with different body shapes. So I think that this photo fits very well, and it goes very well with the rest of the email as well. Let's preview and have a look. All right, that's the finished email. I think that looks so much better. It's still very a very basic email, I would say. It's nothing like too crazy in terms of design. I don't want to make this too designy or spend too much time on design on this one. Here is very much focused on converting the customer to the product that they just left in cart 2 hours ago. Then what you want to make sure is that you always preview, not just preview the emails that you create here directly in Klaviyo, but you also want to send them to yourself so you can watch them. Maybe if you have 2 different email addresses, maybe you can check them in Hotmail, in your Outlook calendar, and also in your Gmail. If you want, and I think it's a good idea, always check also on light and dark mode on the iPhone, because that can look very different. So check that as well and make sure that the design is visible to the receiver. All right, so we will click on done. We are finished with this email now. So I will click on save. Here you come back to this view and you want to make sure, I forgot a very important step. And I think that this is very important. I mentioned it before and now I was about to forget it myself, but I do think that you should always have this in your emails, especially in the abandoned cart. I think it's very, very important to customize, personalize the experience when the customer receives an email like this. So what I would do is to put in the first name of the customer. So if you remember what we spoke about before, we spoke about that when they go to checkout, they enter the email address, but they also enter their first and last name. So here in this flow, you have all the receivers' first names, which is a great asset to have because that means that you can personalize them. So you want to insert their first name. There you want to click add personalization, search for name. You want to do first name. The last name, I don't really care about because maybe you don't want to be called your first and last name in an email. That's a bit too formal. I will do first name. So Klaviyo will automatically pick the receiver's first name as we have that in our Klaviyo account now. But for some reason, if they don't have it, even though they should, just to be safe here, I would put a default text that it will put if it doesn't have the name. So that would be maybe, here they give an example, friend, I would maybe put there. So that would be, hey there. Here you can also choose capitalization. So I would always do the first letter should be in capital. So I would choose that one and then you insert. So here you want to go ahead and just do that. And then you want to add something like, hi, whatever the name is, and then I would actually do exclamation mark. Here you can also feel free to add, emojis or anything else that is more in line with your brand. You can always add that here. Then I feel like this is a little bit small, actually. So there are the last things to fix in the email before I can say that we're done with this email. I want to increase the text size a little bit. I feel like it's a bit small. And if people need to really take the time and the focus and the effort to reading what you have to say, then they will probably skip it. So let's increase this width to a little bit bigger. So to fix that, you don't have to go one by one. You can just click on styles right away. Then you will scroll down. Here you will increase it to, I want to do 16. And I will do that on mobile as well. So now that we're done with the email, we want to create the subject line and the preview text. Here I will just name, this is only for myself, this is not for the customer. Here I want to name it the same as we did in the actual flow. So here I want to do abandoned checkout, email 1. Subject line, I will put something like, it looks like you left something behind. I actually kind of like that one. I will keep it. And then I will do something else on preview text. So here, please don't forget to put a preview text. A preview text is equally important as the subject line. So here we want to do something as well. Here, I actually like to put the first name of the customer as well. So I will go back into edit email. We want to find that formula for the first name. So I will just copy that and then I will paste that in here. Then I will put a comma. So we will say the name, let's say Hannah, what's waiting for you. So let's see here. First name, and then I will put see what's waiting for you. Feel free to be creative with these as well. If you're experiencing low open rates, you can always switch up these. You can do A/B tests and see what works for your brand. You can be fun, you can be serious, you can be, goofy, or just very plain, kind of like standard like these ones. Now we're done with the first email. So I will just click on done, and that will take us back to the overview. Now that we have created email number 1, you can right away go to email number 2 and start designing that if you have no splits that you want to make. But let's say that you want to customize your email content depending on, for example, the value of the cart, or maybe if it's a returning customer, or if it's a new visitor. Then you will use a trigger split or a conditional split. To do that, you will use a trigger split or a conditional split. So let me show you how to do that. If you want to send an email based on the size of the value of the customer's cart, you will in that case select a trigger split. So you find it down here and you will just drag it and put it right under that time delay. Here you will choose the dimension, which in this case, if you want to filter by the value, you will put value, dollar value, so that's money. Equals, here maybe we want to do is less than $40, and then you will click save. And what you get is this trigger split that basically shows you who has a cart that's less than $40 and who has a cart that's more than $40. So if it's a yes path, that means that the value of that cart is yes, less than $40. If it's no, that means it's higher than $40. So here you can customize the email content depending on what the value is. So let's say, for example, for high value cards, maybe you want to offer them a bigger discount for them to convert if you feel like they're important customers. While for a smaller card, maybe you want to offer them a smaller discount or maybe another incentive for them to convert. So here I just want to clone the email that we just created to use the same kind of style. And I want to name it something proper. So something that if I go into the analytics and I want to see how the flow performs, I can right away understand what the email is about or what the split is about. So here I want to do abandoned checkout email to high value cart. And I want to click save. And then I just want to pull that down here to the no path. Actually, I want to take this away and then I just want to duplicate that as well so we can have the same style, because there I kind of have, already the logo and these type of things. So I don't want to redo that again. So I'm just gonna use that, but instead I'm going to rename it so I have it the proper name. Here it's going to be low value cart, and then just pull that there. And here you can start customizing, you can start editing the emails depending what you want to send, what content you want to send each low value cart or high value cart. Now, if you want to continue these with more emails and you want to continue the path of low value cart and high value cart, you can just, continue to add more emails. After, you will put a time delay and then you will put another email. So that will just keep on with those paths. But let's say that you just wanted to have one split. So you just want it to be the second email to be split between high and low value. After that, you want everybody to receive the same emails again. Then what you want to do is just to rejoin these two paths. So you can just do like that. And now they are rejoined, and here you can add a time delay. Let's say that you want to do hours, maybe 20 hours again, and then you want to add another email. So email number 3. And then you can go ahead. So everybody will now once again receive the same email content. Moving on to the conditional split that we spoke about before. So the conditional split works exactly in the same way. It's just based on condition that's not about the current event, but about the recipient's past behavior, profile properties, and so on. So for example, if we want to make a split based on if a customer is a new or a returning customer, we would choose a conditional split. Let me show you how to do that. So maybe I want to right away after the first email, maybe I want to put the conditional split. For now, I will just take away the trigger split, and I will just take away the no path. So we will just keep one email just to make it a little bit clearer for you guys to understand. So here I will add the conditional split instead. You can have both, but I'm just doing this now to give an example. So now we want to filter by returning or new customer. So we want to put what someone has done or not done. Person has placed order at least once over all time. So that means that the customer is returning because they have already placed an order in the past. So I will click save. That's the conditional split. And now we have yes, that means that the customer is returning. No, that means that the customer is new. So you can send different content to these two different groups. For a returning customer, you might want to thank them for coming back. Maybe you want to offer them a deal or reminding them about loyalty points or your loyalty program or reward points that they already have. This type of content, maybe that's more interesting to them. However, for a new recipient, you may want to focus much more on social proof, guarantees and so on to establish that trust because they've never bought from your brand before. It can be about, if you have some special guarantees, maybe your shipping time, this type of content. So now that you have this set, once again, you want to have an email here as well. Maybe you want it to end. I don't think so. Maybe you want to have an email there. So, but you can also make it end. So if you don't want to send anything else to new customers, they will just finish the flow right here. If you do want to, you can just clone or add a new email to this part. So here you will name it. I will not change the name here now since you guys already saw that before, how I do that. So I will just add that right there. So you can see that now this is complete. And then once again, you can either rejoin those two paths. If you don't have an email here, you can rejoin those two paths and send the same email content to all the recipients after that, or you continue with the paths as they are. Now that we have the flow settings set up, we want to check the settings for each individual email. So what you want to do is to click on each email. For example, I will click on the first one, and here I just want to check those individual settings for that specific email. So you will scroll down. Here you can create A/B tests if you want. So what we spoke about before, you can test the content, you can test the subject lines, preview text, and so on. Here you can see the subject line, you can see the preview text, you can see who's the sender. You can also get an overview of the email that you have created. And if you scroll to the bottom, you will see the settings. So here you have skip recently emailed profiles. You can go in here and you can check what each of these mean. For the flows, I will keep this one off. Usually for campaigns, I always keep that one on, but for flows, I just keep it off. I always enable UTM tracking because this helps with the analytics when you're going to do reports and so on. So I always keep that one on for campaigns and for flows. You can also choose if you want to have this one on or if you want to have that one off. And additional filters. So what we spoke about before is the flow filters that we set at the beginning of this video is for the whole flow. So additional filters for each individual email would just apply to that email. So you could always, choose a condition just for that specific email. I don't want any of that right now, but if you want that, here is where you add that. So once you have chosen your settings and everything looks all right, you will once again click save and you will come back to the flow, and you will do that for all the emails in your flow. In this video, I have just shown you how to design the email number one and how to do the conditional splits and the trigger splits and so on, but feel free to add more emails to this flow. I would say anyway, somewhere between 6 emails is good. You can have more, you can have less depending on your brand as well and what you prefer, but we usually go somewhere around 6 emails. Now, as the last step, before you put your flow to live, before it starts sending out for real, you want to make sure that everything works great. So you'll just come back here, you will preview email. You want to make sure that all the links are working. So here is a link, here is a link, and here is a link. You want to click on each of these links and make sure that they're leading you to the correct page. I cannot do that right now because that Shopify is not active, but when you have a real website that's active, that's ongoing, this should lead back to the cart and to the purchase. Apart from this, you should always send a test as the last step. Always send a test there. You will see the preview text, the subject, the preview text, and the email. Test that, see how it works in your actual inbox, because sometimes it can differ from Klaviyo and to an actual email. So please do that as your last step. And when you're done with all of this, once again, we go back to the flow. And here you can update the action. So here you can update the status VG of all the emails at once. So here I will click to put them to live. If there is, for some reason, you want to pause one email, maybe you want to pause this path here, so just this email should not be sent out, but all the other ones should be sent out, then you can just go on this specific one and either put it to draft or to manual, and it will stop sending until you once again activate it and put it to live. So that's how it works. That is everything. Now you have an abandoned cart flow that is working perfectly well. All the triggers are set up, all the conditions are set up, and you're ready to get sales basically when you're sleeping or when you're doing something else. That's why flows are so good. You set them up once and they are running. Of course, you always need to monitor them. You need to see that everything is working fine. If your content is converting, if you need to change something, so you need to keep an eye on the flows, but basically they're running by themselves. So what better way than to make money when you're not doing anything? Anyway, guys, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please subscribe to my page. Please like this video, and I will see you again in the next one.